Yeah, the more I like sort of hang out with people and talk to them about their school experiences, I just realize more and more how very different my upbringing was. Well, for me, I'm doing a lot of maths when I'm there. Like, I'm not very good at maths, but when I'm doing a lot of like, have you seen that meme of the lady who's got all the equations like above her head?
Around,
yeah, that's what I'm like the whole time at DarkFest. I'm like watching everyone, seeing how much speed they're using, like seeing how they're running into lips, everything they're doing, like to try and work out what I need to do. So, you know, at the time of year where you hit sponsors up, I would like smash the emails out, get like a new CV going, get everything going, send it off to like 1 million sponos, and no one would ever be keen. But
Vero Sandler, welcome back to the Downtime podcast. We were just chatting before we hit record. It was 5 years since you came on the podcast, 2018.
I know, it's crazy. Time flies. Stoked to be back on.
Thank you. Yeah. It feels like it was like the beginning of something new for you. Like when we sat down before, you just stepped away from racing, you made that tough decision. And you were going to like focus on more the sort of free ride side of things. And I think your social media had started to build from that anyway.
Yeah.
But looking back, was that a hard decision to make at that point, to make that step away from racing?
No, that was like actually just a really natural decision. Like I just had racing had sort of just phased out for me. Like I'd put a lot of time and effort into it, and I loved it for a period of time, and then just sort of fell out of love for it. So it was kind of just a natural, I was never trying to get into freeride. It was just a natural sort of progression towards stopping racing, and then I was just like, I'm just going to ride for fun now. I was actually going to go to uni and do some stuff there. And then I applied for a uni course, and then they were like, yeah, cool, you've got into the course. And I didn't read the thing properly, and it turned out the campus was like hours away from where I was living. So I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to do that actually. So yeah, I just started riding for fun, and I was just working, and when I lived in Bristol, I just working random jobs. And I just started riding with a different approach, basically. Like I wasn't riding. When I raced, I used to, you know, I always wanted to do good at the races. So every time I rode, I would like be almost training. Like I'd be going down the trail, trying to get to the bottom as fast as I could, or trying to hit things like as fast as I could. And I was never really getting creative and playing around and stuff. So it was a completely new type of riding that opened itself up to me. And then I just started exploring that and getting more and more into it, and I was just absolutely loving it. And then it sort of like naturally progressed into more of a free ride sort of style of riding, I guess. Yeah.
And it felt like through your racing career, it was a lot of work, like a bit of a struggle to kind of, you know, bring in the sponsorship and get the support that you needed and you wanted to make that happen.
Yeah.
And it feels like as soon as you, and maybe it's just from looking from the outside, it feels this way, but as soon as you sort of stepped away from racing and started doing what you really wanted to do, it felt like things just clicked into place and support seemed to come your way. Did it feel like that to you, or was it still a real hard graft? Like
no, like 100%. Like when I was racing, I never had any. I had like a couple brands who used to float me product.
Yeah.
But I was never actually properly sponsored to the point where I was getting like financial support to go to events and stuff. But I was really trying. Like I would email every like, you know, at the time of year where you hit sponsors up, I would like smash the emails out, get like a new CV going, get everything going, send it off to like 1 million sponos, and no one would ever be keen. But as my riding sort of naturally progressed into the more like free ride side of things, also like, I don't know, just randomly I started getting emails off companies rather than like hassling them and sending emails out. So it just fully flipped on its head basically, and people were super interested in hooking me up, which was sick. I was like,
cool, eh?
Sick. I get to like do this type of riding that I really, really enjoy, and also people were wanting to hook me up. It's literally the dream. So
totally.
That was really cool.
Do you ever think about why? Like, do you have a feel for why things changed?
I mean, like, to be honest, I was never really a good racer. Like, I don't, I like 100% didn't deserve to get hooked up properly and like paid to go and race, because I just wasn't getting really good results. But I guess this type of riding I was doing, like the new type of riding I was doing, and I was like posting a lot on Instagram, showing my progression, and people were like really motivated by that. I guess like it just is more valuable to a company than someone who's doing races and not doing very well at them. So it just makes sense, really.
Yeah, it's cool though, isn't it? How you can like flick a switch almost by doing something you love.
Yeah.
And suddenly it all falls your way.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And you started off that journey with Marin bikes, and then in 2021, you ended up moving over to Santa Cruz, which I've heard you describe as like a childhood dream.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Yeah, I mean, actually very first, at the very start of that whole journey, Wide Open Mag hooked me up. And then through them, Marin UK came through with a bit of support, which was really cool. And then I started riding for them properly. And they really like gave me the opportunity to like give me creativity and like I could grow into the, I guess, freeride athlete that I am now. So huge big up to Marin and to Wide Open because they really like opened that door for me.
Yeah.
And then, like through doing that stuff for a couple of years, Santa Cruz came knocking on the door, which was insane. I couldn't quite believe it.
Yeah.
Because, obviously it's an amazing brand and something when I was a kid, I was loaned a Santa Cruz Driver 8, which is like a big chunky old sort of freeride bike. Someone lent it to me for a couple of races, and ever since then I've been like a huge fan of the brand. So yeah, when they hit me up, obviously I was insanely hyped, and that's the rest is history, really. Yeah,
that's amazing. Was there ever a chance that you'd be a Juliana athlete rather than a Santa Cruz athlete? Because Santa Cruz still have this like split thing where they have a female version of a lot of the bikes with the Juliana branding on it. Like, was that a thought in this whole conversation, or was it always a Santa Cruz thing?
It was always a Santa Cruz thing. Like the Juliana brand was never actually mentioned.
Okay.
But after I signed with them and I like sort of announced that I was riding for Santa Cruz, I had loads of messages from people like, why aren't you on Juliana? I guess people would just like associate that with women.
Yeah.
But I just said, I don't know, like that's just always been a Santa Cruz thing. And through sort of chatting to those guys, I think they have the Juliana brand, but they're sort of trying to steer it more like slowly but surely. I think they're trying to steer it more down the path of people who are getting into riding, cruising and stuff, and they have like, I guess, the more like extreme women athletes on the Santa Cruz bikes. Like they've got Nina Hoffman on the race team who's smashing it. They've got myself, and they've got a couple of other like really amazing female riders pushing whatever categories of the sport they're doing. But yeah, the Juliana bikes are sick and they do really cool paint jobs. So I'm a big fan of them as well. But yeah, I don't know, that just was never mention, and I'm just stoked on it. And
there isn't a Juliana version of the V10, I guess, which is a bike that's an important part of your
like the
fleet.
The V10 is like the most important part of my fleet. So I don't know. That's been asked me quite a few times, and I don't really have like a super clear answer for it, but
fair.
Just roll with it, I guess.
Yeah, it's all good, isn't it?
Yeah.
And how does it work then? So you obviously, when you're a racer, brands kind of know what they're buying into, but when you're more on the free ride side of things, like things are maybe a little bit more loose. How do you, when you're working with a brand like that, sort of looking to sign deals and stuff, how do they know what you're going to do for them, kind of thing? Like,
I mean, like for me, where I think I bring value to a brand, or what I'll chat about with sponsors, like if I'm chatting about a new deal with like a new sponsor or something, we'll just go through my plans for the next year of like what events I'm doing, video projects. That's like for me, that's a really important thing. It's like one of my favorite things to do. And I think that's like one of the things that's really valuable to a brand as well. You know, if you bring out some really cool ideas creatively, that's an asset to them. And then you can put out some really cool video content and stuff that they can use and that you're stoked on, you can use for your social media or their YouTube, whatever ways you want to go with it. So that's a big part of it. Then there's like, for me, it's just I have a million ideas, and every year I'm just like trying to get support to make them all happen. So that's what I think brands are super stoked on, that you bring fresh ideas and you're motivated to make stuff happen, basically.
That's cool. And I guess it's harder and harder for brands to stand out, right? There's so much content being produced that having someone that's maybe taking a slightly different approach to things, like it helps them, right? It gives them that freedom to have something different and stand out in the market.
Definitely. Like, I mean, I have so many ideas, and and so many things I want to make happen. And like a lot of the time I'll approach companies, I'll be like, no, absolutely not, but that's just like a risk you take, I guess. And like, then some of them they hear and they're like, yo, that's sick, let's do it.
Yeah.
So it's just seeing which ideas that you have align with which brands and trying to make stuff happen throughout the year. And then also like trying to find the time to make it all happen, because I'm like, I have so many things I want to do, and then there's a lot. It's a lot of work, and you're like, I want to do them all, but I don't have time. And then so you just got to like pick and choose which ones are going to be the best. And so far, like the last couple of years, I've been so stoked on like the projects and events I've been to and stuff. So I just want to keep that rolling.
Yeah, it's been a good few years. And that Santa Cruz era for you, it feels like the first time I saw you on a Santa Cruz was that X-Games Real MTB edit, which was huge. But you nearly missed that opportunity, right? The email dropped into a junk folder. With
X Games? Yeah. And actually, like, I mean, like, actually, it dropped into a junk folder, and then I had this old shitty email address, and it would delete my junk after like a couple of weeks. So I actually only caught it on like the last couple of days before it was gone forever. And I did see it one day, and I saw it and I was like, oh, that's probably like some sort of scam. So I just didn't even open it. And then the next day I went back on it. I was like, just in case there's a chance it's actually from like X Games, I'm going to open it. And then I opened it. I was like, oh my God, like what? So yeah, that was sick. Yeah. Super stoked. And yeah, that was basically that was my first time riding a Santa Cruz, and it was a pretty cool way to like start the relationship.
Definitely. And in front of a huge audience and up against like an incredible roster of riders as well. It must have been super both flattering and intimidating to be lined up amongst that group.
Yeah, massively. I mean, like, as much as the opportunity was so exciting and so insane, it was a lot of work because it was COVID. We couldn't travel anywhere, so we couldn't go to like a cool location to build jumps in a sunny spot or anything like that. So we were stuck here in the middle of winter in Wales. I mean, obviously Braga, he had like the most gnarly conditions, so I can't complain. But we had a lot of battles with weather and stuff, which obviously made it all the more like rewarding at the end. But being involved in that list of riders was extremely intimidating and very scary. Like I like, just as a person, I put a lot of pressure on myself all the time anyway, because I just like always want to do my best, that sort of vibe, so that like being up against those guys, I mean, not that I was never trying to compete with them anyway. I just wanted to do my best, because that's all you can do really. But it definitely played in the back of my mind a bit, and I was pretty worried about like how people were going to perceive it up against like a Seminuk video. So
it's huge.
It was scary, but we had a really good time making it. I had a sick crew like helping me out, and super stoked with the final product. It was a sick time.
Yeah, it turned out really well actually.
Cheers.
But it must have been hard. Like you say, you're in a Welsh winter. You've made this decision. You come from New Zealand, but you've made this decision at the moment to live in North Wales, which is not renowned for its like sunny climate.
No.
Is it a hard place to be doing what you do? Because surely like dry weather and like dry trails is the dream for any kind of freeride athlete.
Yeah, I mean, it is the dream for sure. But I don't know. I love it here. Like in the winter, there's a lot of, the conditions are horrendous. But in some ways, I enjoy having a summer and a winter, because in winter, you completely change up what you're doing. Obviously, in summer, we're like, actually, I'll start with winter. In winter, we're like digging loads, pretty much like the whole time we're digging. We try to ride as much as we can, but we put so much time into building new stuff. And then when the weather sort of turns, it's like a big reward of like, now you get to sort of like, just experience all the sick stuff that you put so much time and effort into. So it's cool having that balance, I think. And it's a completely different, it's like a complete 2 lives basically.
Yeah.
And I used to do summers all the time back to back when I was racing and stuff, which is really cool. But I do love having a bit of a downtime where you can just like mash about in the mud, ride motos, do loads of digging, and then when the summer comes around, you can just like make the most of that as well. It makes you appreciate each one, I think. It's sick.
But hard to film and edit in, right? You were digging, trying to dig deep to get dry dirt out and pack turns and stuff for that edit.
And like building jumps, and then they'll just collapse, build them again, collapse again, like that. Yeah, like if you're trying to film and edit, particularly a jump line in winter, that it is very tech.
Yeah,
and there's there were some big struggles for sure.
And a lot of that, I think all of that maybe was filmed at Revolution Bike Park, which is super close to where you live here.
Yeah.
You had the the Vision line there as well at Revolution Bike Park, which was an incredible thing. It must have been really sad for you to see that close kind of this time last year with the larch disease and the need to fell the place. Like, was that a big blow to not have Revolution as a place you can go ride?
Yeah, 100%. Like, yeah, that was a sad news when that came out. And like Revs is pretty much the reason I've moved to this area. Like I used to live in South Wales, which I loved.
Yeah.
But when we started doing Vision Movie, I was coming up here a lot to, work with those guys on the Vision line and stuff. And I ended up being like, this is so sick up here. So I'm going to move up here. There's I have an amazing crew up here as well. So that was a big part of it. But Revs was like the main attraction that drew me to this area. So when those guys announced the whole thing, that was really sad. But I see them every now and then, and they seem to have some really cool ideas for the future. So I'm optimistic, and I hope they can make something cool happen.
Yeah,
so,
I heard rumors of an indoor jump spot there, in the old car park.
Yeah,
for starters.
That's been I don't know, nothing's set in stone, but that's one of the ideas that they have.
Yeah,
sort of to start things off and get them going again. Because obviously, like the whole hillside has felled, and it's going to be pretty different up there.
Yeah.
But they're they're just super motivated to keep stuff going, and hopefully they'll get stuff up and running. And I mean, for me, I'll be so stoked if an indoor park was on the horizon, because our favorite indoor park, Ramp 1, which is up in Warrington, has just shut down. So that sucks. We're so gutted about that.
Yeah.
So fingers crossed, Revs.
Revs.
That would be insane. And I'll do anything to try and help out to make that happen. But but yeah, if anything, I'm just super grateful for all the stuff that I like, all the stuff we worked on together, and all the memories that we've made, riding up there, all the progression, Vision Lines. I mean, there's insane amounts of cool stuff that's gone down on that line. So just grateful for everything that those guys have done.
Must have been cool every time you go there to see that line that you were such a big part of, and to see people riding it, because it's, I guess, one of the most accessible, big jump lines certainly in the UK, maybe in the world. It's well built. Yeah,
for sure. I think it was at the time, it was a revolutionary thing. People came from all over the world to ride that. And I think it's definitely started the ball rolling with jump line. There's jump lines all over the UK now at bike parks, really sick ones.
Yeah.
So I think with Vision Line, they've done a lot of stuff, really good stuff for the UK riding scene.
Yeah.
So and it's still there. They haven't actually felled onto it or anything.
Okay, it's still intact.
I haven't seen it up close or anything, but I'd love to go and check it out, because I've heard it's looking pretty good, to be fair.
I drove past to go to a race at Rhydyfelin just down the road, and it just felt so weird seeing the hill barren with no trees on it. But I haven't looked at what state the trails are in, and because Vision Line was, it's so well built and so solid that it's gonna, even with a bit of machinery, it's gonna stay pretty strong.
Yeah, so. Vision Line, and they've kept 50 to 1 pretty intact as well. So I don't know if they've got plans for them, but it's just sick that they're not fully disintegrated, and because that would be sad. I'd probably shed a tear about that.
It would be a big deal. Hopefully we'll see those back open soon. I wanted to talk a bit about creativity, because I feel like it's a big part of what you do and what makes you tick. And digging into your history, it feels like your upbringing was a big part of firing up that creative side in you. Can you tell us a bit about your upbringing? So I think you spent quite a lot of time outside, not too much technology. You went to a Steiner school as well, which is pretty different.
Yeah, very different. The more I sort of hang out with people and talk to them about their school experiences, I just realize more and more how very different my upbringing was. But it's interesting because even though I had a very different upbringing to a lot of kids who went to normal schools and had all that technology in their lives, you still end up in the same place with the same interests. So I think it's pretty sick. But basically, so both my parents were Steiner school teachers.
Okay.
So we were brought up in a very heavy Steiner household.
Yeah.
And they stuck pretty hard to the sort of Steiner ethos.
Yeah. What are the kind of principles of Steiner? How would you explain it?
I mean, my parents would probably tell me I was completely wrong the way I explain it. But for me, it was at the school itself, it's very creative, and it doesn't focus on academics until you get a bit older, basically. they believe that you don't need to drum academic things into kids from a young age, and that there's a certain age which is appropriate for you to start learning that stuff, and that you pick it up just as fast from, I mean, I guess around like the age of 9, you pick it up because you're the right age to pick it up, and then you sort of take it from there. But there's a lot of, I mean, I started school when I was almost 7.
Okay.
And you do a lot of just creative stuff. Like you do a lot of drawing, you do a lot of making of things, like you do a lot of woodwork and a lot of like they call it handwork, so like knitting and crocheting, all that kind of stuff.
Nice.
And then you sort of learn the maths and English and science, all that kind of stuff, like a little bit later on. But
yeah,
I mean, through my own experience, you do pick it up just as fast, and you do end up on the same sort of page as kids who have started learning it from the age of 5. But yeah, it was a cool way to grow up for me, like because both my parents were Steiner teachers and taught at the school I was at. It wasn't very cool. Like I wasn't very cool. It wasn't very cool that they were teachers.
Yeah.
And I was always a little bit self-conscious of like how hardcore Steiner we were. Because there was other kids who were allowed to watch TV and stuff like that, and I was just never allowed to. We didn't have any tech stuff like that, basically.
No TV,
no phones, nothing like that. Which I thought was so lame at the time. But actually it was cool because it encouraged, like, me and my brother Leo would just go outside and we'd like just play around, mash about. When we were, I don't know what age, but we had like a little bit of forest behind our house, and we'd just like build really sketchy trails and do all that kind of stuff, which was really cool. But for the social aspect, it was definitely like difficult because we couldn't engage in conversations about what TV show had like been playing the night before or anything like that. So I always felt like a bit lame. But that's just like kid stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, so I guess, yeah, just encourage more of a sort of outdoorsy, creative lifestyle. And that's what I'm always just constantly drawn to. So yeah, it just continues to be a thing that I'm into. So
would you change anything about that childhood now? You talk about this, like the awkward moments of the other kids, like, oh, did you see whatever last night and you didn't have the telly? Like, would you go back and change that? Or do you feel like it's given you a big part of what enables you to do what you do now?
I think like, I don't think I'd change it. If you'd have asked me when I was like 12, I'd be like, yeah, change it all. But in a way, it was like, I mean, there's just a bit of sort of like bullying that comes with that, I guess. Like, you're like, you don't really fit in. Yeah. You're wearing like this, I mean, like we'd be wearing like all these knitted clothes and stuff, and the other kids would be like, oh, that's so lame. So there's like socially it's a bit awkward, but there are other hardcore Steiner kids at the school too, so it was fine, you know. Okay. But yeah, I don't think I'd change it. I don't fully believe that being that hardcore against like technology and stuff is gonna make, I guess like their reasoning behind it was they didn't want us to be hooked on like gaming and watching TV and just be like a couch potato basically. But I think it can go the other way as well. You know, if you like deprive kids of that too much, then they like really, really want it, and they like rebel. And I've seen that with like other kids who I was at school with and other friends. They just, now all they do is like sit behind a TV and just hang out because they like felt like they missed that part throughout their whole childhood. So yeah, luckily for me it's not been like that, but I mean as well, if that's what you're into, then it can go either way. But I like, personally for me, I don't think I wouldn't change it. I probably wouldn't do the same if I had kids. Okay. But I don't regret, I don't hate it, or I wouldn't change anything about it.
That's cool. And you're musical as well, right? You play is it violin?
Yeah, so when I was growing up, that was something my mum was like very adamant on, that we learned to play instruments. What I really like about the way she raised us is that everything had to be balanced, you know, like there was never like, this is what, you know, I mean like, say, for example, mountain biking. We didn't start that until we were a bit older, but if we were into mountain biking from a young age, it wouldn't have been go out and ride bikes every single day. It would be like, make sure you're playing a musical instrument as well, or make sure you're doing like, I don't know, something to like balance things out. So I played the piano and the violin from a pretty young age. My brother played a couple of different instruments. And then, so violin was my main instrument, and I played that until I left school. And I still, every now and then when I get a chance, I play it. But
nice.
It's just a really cool thing to have, like, sort of to do if I ever have time now. And I really enjoy like whipping it out and having a little sesh. It's sick.
That's cool. Does that musical side like carry over into your edits and stuff? Are you kind of fussy about how they feel from a musicality perspective, or are you purely focused on the riding?
Yeah, it's really important to me that, I mean, like, I put so much sort of energy and like, I just put a lot of energy into making these edits, and a lot of my, everything goes into them. And if there's a tune on them that I don't love, then it will just feel like, I don't know, it will feel like such a shame. But it's so hard to get music licensed that's actually good and stuff like that, which makes it like a huge struggle. So I just feel very, very connected to music. And so I like to put a lot of time and effort into finding music. And it makes it, if it's a struggle, it just makes it like more interesting and more rewarding when you get a tune license, or you get a tune that you can use and you're stoked on it and it goes with the edit and stuff. The recent edit I did with Santa Cruz, that was insane. Like, I spent months and months and months looking for tunes, and then loads of the labels didn't get back to us, so we couldn't use like ones that we really loved, but in the end it all came through, which was sick. Is there one tune that stands out to you that you're super gutted that you weren't able to get hold of? Like, is there something you really want to use? I had a really cool tune from an artist called Zion I, like an OG sort of, I mean, I don't know, his genre's like very, he did like a bunch of sort of jungly stuff, just a bunch of like sort of old school rap, all kinds of stuff. He's actually dead now.
Okay.
But the label just didn't get back to us, and I was just every day I was like, oh please, like, can we get a reply? We didn't get one, but who knows, maybe one day I'll be able to use it on another edit.
Fingers crossed. Yeah. And I think being in Wales like has enabled you to like settle into that creativity and let it out. Like, you've been able to get some land locally, or you've got a couple of spots, right, where you've been building stuff. How's all that stuff come together? Like, is it easy to get set up? Yeah, that's another, like, I really love it around here. Like, people often say to me, like, what are you doing? Why did you move to the UK? Stuff like that. But I just really love it. And particularly here in Wales where I live, it's amazing. Like, it's very rural, so there's amazing landscapes everywhere, and there's a lot more opportunity to like find land that you can actually use and get creative on. So yeah, I've been super lucky to find, in lockdown, my first spot, which I rent a bit of land off. We have a little jump spot called Lucky Dip. Yeah. In lockdown, I was meant to be going away and doing all kinds of projects and events and stuff, but obviously because the travel was sort of halted for everyone, I wanted to get stuck into a project. So I asked a local farmer if he could rent me some land. So he was like, yeah, if you can find a piece on my land that doesn't fall under like the grazing areas, then let me know and we can see if it like works. So I found a really cool spot. So we built that up in lockdown. Actually, James from Revs like did the digger work for that. So that was sick. And then that's been evolving. We've still got it now. We've had like so many amazing sessions up there. All the people around here, the whole crew's like learnt new tricks up there and just had like sick times. So that's really cool. And then recently in the last year, I've acquired a piece of land locally as well, which is now like my boyfriend Sam and I, that's our like big project, which is just, it's never going to end. We're going to like keep building out there forever, I think. So that's like been insane to get stuck into and get some big jumps built, and like, it's just the best. Yeah. Super stoked. Is that the place where the Santa Cruz edit Mice Movement was put together? Yes. Yeah. Tell us a bit about that then. Like, how did that project come together and all the design and work that goes into creating that? Because again, it was a pretty different like set of trails. It wasn't just straight air kind of big jumps kind of thing. There was a lot going on there. Yeah. I mean, when we found the land last year, we were like, this is insane. And I've never, I mean, obviously you need a house to live in, but all I've ever wanted to do is like own some land. I don't really care about like owning a house, but if I can own land to mash about on and do what I want, then that's the dream. So I ended up finding that, even though it's around here and it's generally like quite a lot cheaper, it was like a struggle to make it happen, but somehow we pulled like all our life savings together and ended up buying that. So it was sick. And then we got stuck into a build for this video. It's a video that I've been chatting about for a few years, but I've never been able to find like land that I can use to build a longer jump line. So
when we found that to buy, it was perfect, really. And I've had ideas for years drawn down on like which features to build and stuff like that. So a bunch of those we built. A bunch of them also sort of just like came with the lay of the land. Like as we were building the line, we were like, oh, sick, like we could build a hip here, you know, like works perfect for the hillside and stuff like that. And Sam is like very creative as well, and he's amazing and a digger. So when we put our heads or our minds together, we were able to make a sick line, which actually it was insane, and we had some insane sessions all summer long. But pretty much all of it has been knocked down now to rebuild more stuff. Not even like we didn't want to knock it down, but with the plans we've had, it's just naturally like we've changed a lot of it. So it's pretty exciting. Like it's sad to like see some of those features go, but also it's exciting to just keep evolving it and build. I mean, like you just progress with each build. So we're like, oh, actually we could make this way bigger. We could make this like, so
nice.
It's exciting.
Yeah. And you've got it documented in that edit that lives on, I guess. So that
exactly.
the line always lives somewhere for everyone to see.
Yeah. And
cool.
I've got I've been filming a series this year with Adidas, and we've got another episode. Well, the last episode of the series is filmed at the land as well. So there's a couple cool projects and like memoirs of the stuff that we've built. So
nice. Is that Vision Chapters?
That's it.
Yeah. Sweet. Yeah. And I'm intrigued as to how you feel when an edit goes out there, because it's very different to racing, right? You get your one race run on telly if you're lucky to qualify it fast enough. It's like the best run you can put down on that day on that track in those conditions, but anything can happen. Whereas an edit is like, in theory, polished. It's your best riding. You can shoot take after take after take if you want to like get it where you put it. So you're putting something out there that you're, I guess, like super happy with, super proud of. How does it feel to put that in front of the world, like the bike world, to have it on the websites and to see people's comments and stuff? Like, is it a nervous day or is it exciting? How do you feel about it? I mean, for me, like if it's an edit like that where we've done the whole thing from start to finish, like we've built everything, we've rebuilt a bunch of stuff a million times if like the weather's knocked it down, if it doesn't work quite well. So there's been like so much time and effort and energy put into the build itself before there's even any riding going down on it. And then to film, obviously like you said, you can do like a bunch of takes on stuff, which is really cool. So you can really put out your best work in both of those areas, in the digging side and in the riding side. So for me to put out a project like that is just like, I mean, I don't even care what people think. I'm just so stoked on like what we've done, and I'm so stoked on bringing it all together with Jobo and those boys as well. So it's just like a huge achievement, and it's just super, super rewarding to like pull it all together. But there's always so much struggle that goes on, but like behind those edits there's so much that you don't see, like problems with weather. And when we built that line, it was sick, and then for some reason every day we went up there to film, it was just like fucking windy, so windy that we'd be sitting there for hours waiting for the wind to die down. And then so a couple of the shots in there are like ones I had envisioned to be different, where we're just making do with the windy situations basically. But it's just all part of it. And I'm super stoked on how it came out. Super stoked. Do you ever look at the comments online with stuff like that? Do you try and avoid it?
I mean, I used to. I definitely used to, and I went through a phase of like, again, when I was racing, like I was never putting edits out or anything, and it's quite like a humbling thing to put out something which is like your best work and then have people just judging you for it.
Yeah, totally.
So I went through like an interesting phase of reading all the comments and really getting affected by them and thinking like, oh my God, this is what people actually think. Like, fuck, maybe I should do it differently. Or, you know, you like go through that sort of journey of that. And then after some time you realize like, actually none of that matters. And people don't actually really know. They don't know you. They don't know what's going on in real life. And they don't know any of that stuff. And like, if that's what you enjoy and if you're stoked on it and if it's your best work and stuff like that, then that's all that really matters. So,
right.
And you know, you never know what people might be going through themselves to take out something on. It's easy to take something out on people online, I think.
Yeah.
Know, like for some people it must be.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So yeah, especially like, again, this is like a bit off topic, but in lockdown, people were just going nuts online. Like they were angry. They were slating. I mean, me, like personally, I know like people like Tani and stuff as well. They were getting some horrible comments just because people were like cooped up and like pissed off. And I guess we live in Wales here and there's not many people around, so we were still going out for little rides here and there. And people were not stoked. So yeah, but that's really when I learned that like just to, you know,
switch off from
people are going through their own shit, and if they're angry about it, then just ignore their stuff. So yeah, but it is, so now I'm just, if I see a nice comment, I'm super stoked, and generally that's all that there is, and I'm stoked on it. But if there's not a nice one, I'm like chilling. I'm stoked on it, so it's fine.
And with that Mice Movement edit, you got the chance to premiere that in the like little cinema in Morzine with like a Santa Cruz evening. How is it putting it in front of actual people? Like it's all well and good putting it online and having the comments, but being in a room full of people seeing it must be a totally different experience.
Oh, for sure. Like actually that was quite a last minute thing. Seb from Santa Cruz was just like a couple of weeks before, he was like, oh, do you want to come to Morzine? We could even do a premiere for your film. And I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, I guess so. But I wasn't expecting it. Like the whole thing was fully booked out and there was insane amounts of people watching my edit. I was just like very honored that so many people want to come and see the stuff that we've done, and people really seem to like it. And yeah, I was super stoked. All I really wish from it is that I hope that it inspired some people to go get amongst it, and I think it did, so that's sick.
It must be a good buzz, like to feel the vibe in the room.
Yeah, it's insane. It's insane.
That's cool.
That was really cool. So yeah.
And that was the same week as the Leger World Cup. I saw you trackside on the whatever day it was, Saturday, watching the racing. Is there any FOMO for you being at an event like that these days and being on the sidelines rather than being between the tape?
Definitely not. I love racing. I love watching it. It's an insane vibe, you know, the energy at like the end of it. I mean, especially that one in Leger. I was stoked that I just happened to go see the one where 2 French people won and the energy was insane. But it's like nothing else. It's so cool to just to be a part of it and be a spectator and a supporter is like plenty for me. I have absolutely no FOMO of them like sending themselves down that trail. It's insane. Just love to be like supporting them, you know?
It was a good one to be at.
Hell
the vibe insane. Is pretty insane there these days. And I hear that you're someone that sort of quite enjoys like the training aspect, the gym work. You're not someone that finds that a grind so much. Maybe that's not true, but that's what I've been told. How has that changed for you? Like moving from racing downhill to like a more free ride style program. Like, are you still doing it? How does it differ?
I mean, for me, like just exercise in general has always been something that I just love to do. I find it like it's just amazing. Like, I mean, obviously it's like good for your health, but especially for like for my mental health, it's amazing. So I've always really liked like smashing the gym and like going out shredding, all that kind of stuff. But that's something I still do now. Like it's definitely harder to keep it consistent when there's like the freeride scene's amazing. There's so many cool things happening all the time. And a lot of them like pop up really last minute. So, you know, like a week or 2 before you'll hear about a jam and you'll be like, hey, sick, I'll just go off to that. So during like sort of the on season, it's hard to maintain like consistent gym sessions and stuff. But when I'm home in the winter, I love just like getting in the gym and it just makes me feel like, I mean, I'm sitting here injured now, but it makes me feel strong and it makes me feel like hopefully it will like help to prevent injuries if I hit the ground. Which hasn't really, I mean, I've injured myself a lot the last half of this year, but I honestly think without having gymmed, it would be 10 times worse. So just I feel like more confident on my bike because I feel stronger. It all sort of like crosses over and I love it.
Are you doing the same kind of stuff though? Like,
no, well, I mean, when I was racing, it was more like sort of high intensity stuff where you're puffing out your ass. And like sprints and all that kind of stuff. But now I mainly just try and like lift some heavy weights and just so that I'm strong. Actually, like over the last winter and what I'm still trying to work on now is just lifting heavy so that I want to put on a bit of weight. Because when I go to those big air events like DarkFest, for example, if you're really light, it actually makes your life pretty hard because you really need to carry speed. And if the lighter I am, the harder it is to carry speed. And I have to like, for some of the jumps, I have to tuck in right behind someone and like try and stay in this slipstream to be able to like get enough speed to make some of the jumps.
No way.
So I'd like to I'd like to make that a bit easier for myself and try and like pack on a few pounds so that I can carry more speed, basically.
Fair.
Yeah.
So you're going to go the muscle route and not the pie eating route then?
Bit of both. I'm hoping with a bit of both it will like do me some favors.
Yeah, heavy Christmas.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, every day just
mince pies.
It. Yeah,
nice. Yeah, I was going to say DarkFest is probably a place where like being strong is even more important. Like you're taking huge impacts potentially. Like the jumps there are massive.
Yeah. Just
talk us through like, well, how did the invite come around the first time? I think it was 2022 the first time you went to DarkFest.
A couple years ago.
Yeah.
It came round. I guess like Sam Reynolds and the boys who ran the event, they really wanted to have some women there. Because the year before that would been at it was then called the Audi 9s.
Yeah.
That was sort of the first time women got a chance to be at one of those events with the guys. And I think they were all pretty mind blown about like the potential that we had. So Reynolds was like, hell yeah, we want to have some women. And then with Adidas and 510, who also sponsored the event, we found a way to film a Vision series episode there. And then with the budget from that, we could like help bring some women to the event and like get them, make sure that there's like a comm for us and like that we can be a part of the event. So it was a big collab and just a huge shout out to Reynolds and those boys for like believing in us and giving us that sick platform to go to such an insane event. It's literally just like, I can't even explain it. It's insane. It's so sick.
Yeah, what was it like when you landed and got to the venue for the first time? Because the jumps, I mean, they look huge online, which means in reality they must be ridiculously huge.
Mate, I can't even. They're ridiculous, and they don't get any smaller the second year. I can tell you that. Like, it's insane. It's like nothing else. Like I said before, like the only other event I'd been to, or the only other place I'd ridden big-ish jumps was at the 9s the year before, but they're like baby jumps compared. So when we rocked up there, I just like stood there looking up at these lips thinking like, what the fuck, basically. But yeah, with the whole crew that was there, like there's an amazing crew of like a handful of us girls there. Obviously none of us had been there before, so we were all in the same boat. But the guys were super supportive and like sort of coached us through everything. And we all pushed each other and just ended up having a sick time. And then this year when we came back, there was like huge amounts of progression. So yeah, amazing. It was insane.
Yeah. How did you work up to those first few hits then that first year? Like what was the plan? How do you get into DarkFest? Like how do you start?
I guess like they have another sort of little area of jumps called the Hell's End Compound.
Okay.
Which also massive jumps, but nothing like DarkFest again. So we did a lot of riding there, and like, I mean, everyone did. Like even the guys were all warming up there, having a session stuff, and then you sort of progress, and then it's like, right, time to go. To like, weather's looking good. Let's go over, and we're like, oh god, here we go. And the first, like the most logical one to start with is the big step up because you can like get a clean run into it. And just hit it like on its own and session it. So that was actually like I managed to hype up all the girls to do a train. Like first run in, we did a train and we all hit it together, which was sick.
Like no run-ins, just straight.
Yeah. Obviously, like for me, I'm doing a lot of maths when I'm there. Like I'm not very good at maths, but when I'm doing a lot of like. Have you seen that meme of the lady who's got all the equations like above her head?
Around,
yeah, that's what I'm like the whole time at DarkFest. I'm like watching everyone, seeing how much speed they're using, like seeing how they're running into lips, everything they're doing, like to try and work out what I need to do. So we didn't just run in blind and hit it. You know, we'd like thought about it a lot and we'd thought like how we're going to do it. So we ordered a train, and then that sort of started off the week with insane amounts of hype, and everyone was like super stoked to keep going. So just done that a load of times to get used to the air time, and then just progress onto some other jumps. But yeah, this year a few of us did top to bottom runs, and that was like a very, very sick moment. Probably the most hype of my life, actually.
There's some huge features on that.
Yeah,
there's an incredible picture of you like full suicide. On one of the massive jumps. Like, how do you feel looking at that imagery? Like, it must feel almost strange to see yourself in such like the setting is just so 100%. Insane.
Yeah, like when I look at that photo, actually, I just got it out the other day to send to someone, and like Bergtech wanted to use it for something, and so I got it up again. When I look at that stuff, I'm like, damn, did I do that? That's pretty gnarly. But when you're there, like with the environment, you kind of get into this crazy zone where like, where everyone you just like believe in yourself and you just get it done basically. So it's sick. But that was actually like, that was at like 7 a.m. or something that photo was taken. So it was insane.
And are you doing that because of like the air pressure change has an impact on speeds and
everything? Actually, like, the morning, like the air's a lot denser, so stuff doesn't run as fast. But depending on it all depends on the wind. That's sort of how they like judge their sessions. You know, if it's looking really windy one day, then usually early morning, it won't be as windy. Even though the air's a bit denser, which makes it slower. There won't be as much wind, and then the sun won't be in your eyes as well. So there's like quite a few factors to think about. It's like very like sort of mathsy, sciencey thing, which makes it like quite sick. Like, we've learned a lot about big air through being there. It's sick. Yeah,
you like as a spectator or whatever, you kind of just imagine everyone's just hucking their meat and like
definitely not.
That brains are switched off and away you go. But it's totally the opposite, right? There's a lot of calculation. and thought.
100%.
Safety is actually a big part of it.
100%. And you can't like, you have to respect those jumps, you know, like if you just go like, there are people who go into just hacking their meat and it definitely bites back. Like it definitely pays to be a bit more tactical and just like have some respect for what you're riding. Because it's fucking massive. Some of those like some of those lips, you go up them and you just feel like you're riding up a mountain, and then you're just in the air for ages, and then it's crazy. Such a sick
But you've
feeling.
obviously got a buzz for it, right? You're keen to go back.
Yeah, for sure. It's sick.
Yeah,
it's really sick.
And you landed on the front page of one of the newspapers out there.
Yeah, crazy. Yeah, that photo we were just talking about.
Yeah,
it got on the cover of the Cape Times, which apparently is like a massive newspaper in South Africa. So super stoked on that.
Yeah,
and big up to Mr. Shin who took the photo.
Very cool. Very cool. And how does the vibe then differ? Like, you've spent time in the World Cup circuit and you've spent time at these big air events like DarkFest. Like, I'm guessing it's pretty different, right? The lack of sort of competition, I guess, changes things, but it always looks super supportive.
Yeah, definitely. Like I mean, I haven't been in the race scene for so long now that I almost like, I can't compare the two because I don't really fully remember the vibe of it, and I'm sure it's changed a lot. And also, I'm sure it's very subjective to what team you're on and who you're hanging out with in the pits and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But when I was racing, it was that I had a really cool crew of girls that I used to do practice days with, and it was really supportive, and everyone was kind of like sort of hyping each other up and like taking the next features off and sections off and stuff, which was really cool.
So almost similar then to like DarkFest
for sure.
kind of thing.
But you always get like, there's always people are on different vibes, which was absolutely fine. Like some people were there to purely make a statement, you know, and to be on a bit more of a competitive vibe. But I guess if you just find the circle of people that you are on a similar energy to, then you're gonna have a sick time. But like for example, DarkFest is very like it's just sick. Everyone's just hyped for each other, and it's such a good time. Yeah,
and it's been great to see not only more women at these events, but women and men kind of competing, or whether competition is the right word, but like being there alongside each other is super cool. You've been quite involved in the women's scene over here in the UK with some Project Evolve stuff over the last couple of years. Just tell us a little bit about that and some of the events that you've been running and how that's all gone.
Yeah, for sure. Like Shan, Becky and myself kind of, I don't know, a couple of years ago we were just chatting. We went to a pub and we were just chatting about how we can we wanted to do something cool to help bring up the, I guess, women's freeride scene here in the UK. Because you can't help but notice there's so many cool events popping up all over the world for like women's specific freeride stuff. But there's not really been anything in the UK. And for a couple of years now, I've been waiting. Every year, I'm like, something will happen this year. Like, you know, I'm excited for it, and just nothing will.
Yeah.
So I think we all kind of collectively came together with that same thought, and we were like, we're just going to have to make it happen ourselves. So yeah, we started working on Project Evolve. We had an event at Revs, which was insane. It was so sick to see, like, just to bring everyone together who's sort of like-minded. And it doesn't matter what we wanted to do was have it for all skill levels, you know. It doesn't matter what level you're at. everyone can come and sort of ride in the same place and just like get hyped up by seeing each other ride and riding with new people, meeting new people, and that surely is going to grow the scene. So that's what we were aiming to do, and that's what we did at the first one, which was sick.
And it sold out like super quick.
Yeah.
How many women were there?
I mean, because it was at Revs, obviously there's an uplift, so it's got to have a limited amount. And we were like, should we do like 100? And we'll like, because that's how many they could do for the uplift. And we're like, I don't know if we'll get that many people, but we'll just call it 100 anyway. And it sold out super quick. And then we had like messages on messages of more women like, please, can I get in? Like, I didn't get a ticket. So we ended up having like way over capacity because we couldn't say no to people. But yeah, it was insane. It was so sick. And we've got some more, we had an indoor skate park one earlier this year, which was also really sick. Just to mix it up, and you know, it's winter, so it'd be cool to do something indoors. And there's amazing young, you know, like girls down, like, like 12-year-old down, like just absolutely shredding. And it was so cool to meet them all and like see what they're up to. And we've got some more stuff in the pipeline too for sort of later in the winter. So yeah, looking forward to just keeping it going. And there's more and more stuff popping up now, like the Go On girls are doing some sick jams. And we're going to link up with them to do something early next year as well. So that should be sick. Yeah. So there's loads happening now. And I'm hoping it's like sort of got the ball rolling for that kind of thing, and there'll just be more and more of it. Because there's so many amazing riders here in the UK, and there's such like amazing things for them to ride and like places to go and shred and stuff like that. But to bring them all together to like sort of grow the whole thing is important, I think. Yeah,
it was incredible. I saw some video footage from the Revs jam.
Yeah.
And just to see everyone like together shredding, like the amount of people that were hitting Vision Line.
Yeah.
And, like, from really young, young girls up. It was so cool. Like the vibe looked amazing.
Yeah, it was sick. It was so sick.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, I wish I had more time to like make it, or with all like Sian, Becky and myself, we all wish we had more time to make them happen like all the time. But we have such busy lives that it's hard to like sort of work on something for the future, but we've got some more stuff lined up, so it's sick.
Nice.
It's just like a bit, it's not like going to be once every couple of months. It'll be more like once a year or something.
Yeah,
but,
it's fair enough.
Yeah.
It's a start, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Do you feel like you're seeing the impact of increased representation though? Because we are seeing more women taking part at like high level free ride events.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that's trickling down and we're starting to see more younger women coming into the sport, girls getting into the sport?
Yeah, definitely. Like you can't, it's everywhere. You can't deny it. Like there's like young girls shredding everywhere, and they're all like absolutely killing it. So it's so sick. Like I think that is all. It's all about that. Like if you see it, you can do it, sort of thing. You know, like when I was younger, growing up, there were no professional free ride women to look up to, and like I mean, even though the guys are out there doing it, sometimes it's a lot more motivating, and you believe you can do it more if you see other women doing it, you know. So it's just now with the industry like supporting us doing what we're doing, it's just gonna keep growing the scene, and there's like such young girls getting into it, and there's amazing, like the next generation of women's free riders are going to be next level, and I'm super excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, it's super cool. I was on an uplift at Dovey a month or two ago, and it took me a while to realize, but like halfway up the uplift I was like, hang on a minute, there's less guys in this van than women, including the driver who was male. I was like, that's the first time I've ever been at a bike related thing where there's more women than guys. I was like, actually, that's super cool. Like, it's been a long time coming, but we're heading in that direction.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
It's like, it's blowing up. Like when I was a kid, or I started riding when I was about 13, and it would be very rare that I'd turn up to a spot and there'd be another woman there.
Yeah.
Like when there was, I'd be like, it would almost be like, oh my God, there's a woman. Like,
what's going on? This is cool.
Yeah. And now, like, I mean, like you said, it's like 50-50 most of the time, if not more. So it's really exciting. It's cool.
Big changes.
Yeah.
And you've obviously got some plans for more like grassroots events in the UK.
Yeah.
Do you ever see yourself hosting like a bigger jam, like on the international scene? Like you've got some builds going on.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to actually host one next year, which should be sick.
Here in Wales?
Yeah. So the Backyard Battle series, which is a series that Monster Energy sort of have only started this year.
Yeah.
Which is such a cool concept. It's basically like different riders who ride for Monster, the ones who have setups that they've been building. They'll bring like their mates and their favorite riders and just people who they're inspired by to their backyard to have a big jam basically. And they've had 3 this year, which have all been really, really sick. And they're going to add another one to the stop next year, which will be our one. So Sam and I are going to host one at our backyard, which is why we're flat out digging at the moment.
Whoa.
So it should be sick just to bring like some amazing freeriders to the UK and to Wales, like to this tiny little town that we live in. Is going to be sick.
Yeah,
I'm
some
super
random
excited.
Welsh field. Like,
yeah, I know.
That's cool.
I know it's going to be so random, but I think it'll be a good time. And
yeah,
super excited.
Do you feel a lot of pressure on that build then as a result?
I don't know. I have like a lot of faith in the stuff that Sam and I build together. So there's definitely time pressure, like to get it done in time. With, you know, you just never know what the weather's going to do and how much stuff you're going to have to rebuild.
Yeah.
But we've got a good head start and we're getting stuck in pretty hard. So I think I'm not stressing yet. We'll see what happens closer to the time.
Yeah. And you got some big machinery up there. You enjoying digger life?
I love it. I'm like, for the last few years, I've been getting sort of learning the ropes of operating a digger.
Yeah.
And it's taken, I mean, it's tough. It's like a very, very hard thing to do it well and to do it like smoothly and naturally. But in the last sort of little period, I felt like it's coming more naturally to me and I'm not having to think about a million things at once. So when the progression starts to come, it's like addictive and I just want to get in the digger like every day and especially now I've got a shoulder injury, I'm like, yes, diggering like every day is sick.
Do you enjoy that as much as the riding almost? Like, is there starting to become a real enjoyment from the digging as well?
Yeah, I actually do. Like, it's definitely like on par, I think. Like, I mean, not just sitting in a digger, but just digging in general, like trail building and stuff. It's like even for me. And I think I just, like I said earlier with my childhood, like having a balance of things has always been like, I mean, variety is the spice of life, isn't it?
For sure.
So being able to sort of divide my time between riding and digging is like, just keeps insane enjoyment between the two and they like both progress each other and it's just a sick, I love it. It's so good.
Awesome. I'm excited to see what you put together. It'll be impressive, no doubt.
Cheers.
You mentioned injury. Mountain biking comes hand in hand with it, right? It's a dangerous sport and things do go wrong sometimes. You suffered a concussion earlier this year, right?
Yeah.
Tell us a bit, well, how did it happen first?
Actually, it was at the first backyard battle. We'd had an insane week shredding and I was absolutely knackered. It was the last session of the last day. And I was like, just super tired. Actually, I was like kind of unwell as well. But right at the end of the session, a few boys decided to hit this huge step down into this massive jump. And they were like, come on, Vero. Like, and I was like, okay, sick. Fuck it. I'm just going to do it. Normally I'm very calculated. But I just was like, no, not today. I'm just going to send it.
Yeah.
And it bit back. I hit the massive drop. I was super stoked. And I didn't do my calculations like I normally do. And I just overshot this jump basically and just landed heavy, smacked my head insanely hard. I've not had a big knockout like that in a long, long time. So
you were out cold.
Yeah. I was out cold. When I woke up, it was like a bit overkill, I think, but there was like 4 ambulances and helicopters there.
No
and I was
way.
like, I had no idea what was going on, obviously, because I'd just been knocked out. I was like, what the fuck? What's going on? But I mean, it's like in Austria, like it's better to be safe than sorry, I guess. So kind of sick to see that normally it's like, oh no, we can't get hold of an ambulance. It's not going to come for another couple hours. But there it was like, everything was there, whatever you need. But yeah, so yeah, I separated my shoulder and I had a pretty gnarly concussion, which was there was a big learning curve in the recovery of that. But now I've learned so much from it. And it was a pretty hard struggle for the first sort of month, learning how to move through this, I guess, side effects of the concussion and stuff.
What kind of symptoms did you have then?
Just like extreme sort of anxiety and depression and all that kind of stuff really kicked in. I've always, I've never quite experienced it like that before. And it took some figuring out. And I mean, like people actually I put on Instagram if people had any suggestions for it because it got to a point where I just couldn't figure out what to do and how to shake it. And obviously, like you have to just work through it. You can't just get rid of it. But a lot of people on Instagram gave me some really good advice.
Okay.
And then in the end, like what really helped me to recover from it was to meditate like every day.
Okay.
Meditation is something I've always tried to do, but I've always been like, I can't do it. I can't, like, my brain won't quieten down. I can't do it. But it was just a matter of finding the right type of meditation.
Yeah. Okay.
Something that like resonated with me and that worked for me. And that's something that I still do pretty much every day. And it's like really changed. It's changed my life, to be honest. Like, yeah, sick.
Yeah. So what kind of meditation did you end up with? What's the style that you use?
I ended up reading a book called The Power of Now, which is an amazing book. I highly recommend. I listened to the audiobook version because I'm not very good at reading. But the way he describes meditation is it just like it really worked for me. Before, when I'm sat there, I'm trying to just like be still and my mind's trying to be still, but it just won't work. And I'm like, come on. Like, it never worked before. And I just ended up being like, it's not for me. I can't meditate.
It's a frustrating practice when it's like that. Yeah.
But the way he describes it, he sort of puts it in a different way where he gives you something to focus on. He gives you like, it sounds weird, but you're focusing on feeling the insides of things in your body, like the insides of your hands, the insides of everything. And that like really stills you and centers you, and that's like
a home base kind of thing they call it, right? Like somewhere to focus your attention. And
exactly.
It's mad what you can feel when you start actually trying to feel stuff. Like,
I know, it's crazy. And it's really like translated into a lot of different aspects of my life, not just helping with my concussion, but even in my riding, like to sort of focus me and like get rid of nervousness and stuff like that before I'm doing stuff. And just in general, like I have OCD, which isn't what people think. It's not being really tidy. It's not being really dialed like that. It's like a neurobiological condition, which makes it pretty tricky to focus and to like be calm and with like inwardly in a lot of circumstances. But meditation again has pretty much like helped me to, I want to say almost like to cure that whole thing. Which is something that I've lived with my whole life. So it's literally, I can recommend meditation.
Interesting.
And if you can't resonate with it, just keep trying to find like different methods.
Try a different version.
Yeah. Try and find, and eventually like, I'm a strong believer if you really like want something, and you put effort into trying to find it, it will present itself to you at some point, So
So with the meditation, like you say, helping you in general life, is that like a byproduct of having meditated for a period of time, do you think? Or are you like, I'm doing an OCD kind of thing, I'll do a meditation? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So for sure. Like, I mean, with that, with the power of being able to utilize it, it kind of helps you it takes you out of if you're wrapped up in your shit, it gives you the power to be able to like snap you out of that and almost look down on what's happening. And see it from a different perspective, and not so that you're not all wrapped up in it and all caught up in what's going on, and you have the power to step out of it and be like, oh, this is going on. Okay, let me just like recenter everything, and then it just calms everything down. And in all situations, and like, if you're getting wrapped up in something that you're stressed about, or if you're angry or emotional about something, you can use that. It's like a tool to cure like everything, I swear. It's so good.
Cool.
Like in a way, I mean, concussion sucks, but in a way, like without it, I wouldn't have been able to, my life's so busy that I never would have given myself the time to really like focus in on trying to meditate and trying to find the right type of meditation for me. And without that, I wouldn't have found this like tool that I can now use with everything in my life. So it's really cool.
That's nice. How long do you dedicate, or do you try and dedicate per day to it? Like, are you doing it on a daily basis? Or?
Yeah, I mean, like when I had my concussion, I was doing it a lot. Like throughout the day, I would do it multiple times, all the time. I'd do it in the morning when I wake up. I'd go out on a walk and do it whilst I'm out. Like all kinds of, just so that I can like, because it didn't come naturally to me. I really had to work on it to make it, to be able to do it properly. But after putting a lot of time and effort into it, it's something that I can now sort of just snap into pretty quickly.
Nice.
So now, I mean, I'd like to do it every day, but some days I do it every day. Some days I'll just do it like every other day.
Yeah.
But normally just like in the morning or just before I go to sleep, I'll do it. And
what, like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour?
Not even like a couple minutes. Yeah.
Just to be in that space.
Yeah.
And how long were you doing it for before you started to feel some benefits?
Before, like, I mean, I was probably doing it for like a month hard every day. I was like thinking about it all the time, trying to do it all the time when I had my concussion, before it started actually coming naturally to me. I definitely went through a phase of like being like, oh fuck, I can't, like I can't feel the inside of my hands, what's going on? But then like again, if you just put energy and like you really want something, you put a lot of time and effort into it, eventually it starts to come like naturally. So that's just what happened. And and then at one point it just clicked and I was like, yes, oh my God, it's working, sick.
That's cool.
Yeah, so really cool.
What did that click feel like? What changed? Does that make sense?
I don't know, like I mean, I guess it just sort of like, it just did feel like that. Like one day I just been doing it all the time, and I guess it did like gradually become more natural. Yeah. But then one day it just felt like, oh my God, it's like there.
Yeah.
And it would be like with my concussion, I had a lot, like I said before, I felt like pretty extreme anxiety at times, and I would try and use that in those circumstances. And sometimes, I mean, I wouldn't for a long time, and then at one point when I was able to catch myself in those anxious states and start to use the meditation, that was when it became a thing that would like, that a tool that I could use. Like I could actually snap myself out of the anxiety and like use it to pull me out of it. That was like a pretty significant moment. So
that's amazing.
Sick. So big up to everyone on Instagram who like recommended meditation, because there was a lot of people, a lot of things were recommended, a lot of things were really cool, but that one for me was like life-changing. So
nice. It's awesome. It's cool that you stuck with it as well. That it's helping in day to day, post the concussion.
I think it's like, I mean, it's probably not for everyone, but in the time that we live in, it's so hectic, isn't it? Like so much shit going on everywhere, so much like stimulation, and I think it's important to do it. Yeah. I'm
with you. It's good stuff. And then you picked up a little shoulder injury as well recently. Was that?
Yeah.
How did that one happen?
Yeah, this one happened probably almost a month ago now. Riding in Barcelona, I just had a little crash. I was super ill for like a week, and I was at an event and I felt like I'm here now, like I should at least try to ride, even though I feel horrendous. But I just was super weak, so I just had a slam. I just cased a jump, had a slam and dislocated my shoulder. So at the moment I'm just trying to get it fixed. But it's getting there. Good. It's I realized I was told the other day that it was super painful for a couple of weeks, and it realized it hadn't actually popped back in properly, so that's why it was causing me grief. So hopefully now that it's in its place, it will recover pretty quick. But I just want to for the last sort of half of the year I haven't been able to ride as well and as much as I'd like to, because I've just been injured. So I'd love to get back on the bike and just shred for a good. Sam and I, pardon me, we're going to go to New Zealand in January, so that'll be a nice bit of time to just like get back on the bike, ride in the sun, and like
reconnect with it a bit.
Times. Yeah, that's it.
And meanwhile, you can drive a digger, so you're all good.
Exactly. Could be worse. Exactly.
Yeah. And this year you picked up a Monster deal as well, which is a big thing for any athlete, right? To get an energy drink support.
Yeah.
Like, what does that mean to you? What does that enable you to do?
I mean, to me, like, for the last since I went to DarkFest the first year, actually, that's when I met all the Monster crew, and they're all insanely sick people. Like, they're just like the loveliest people. They are so supportive. They love like coming out and watching everyone ride at DarkFest and at all these events. They love to party, which is sick. So that's when I sort of started chatting to them, just not even chatting about a deal, just hanging out with them. They're all really cool people, and we just like are on the same page with a lot of stuff. So I had no idea that this was coming my way. Sam sort of like Monster said they never like give out surprise helmets or anything, but because my boyfriend Sam's on Monster, he was like, let's make it a surprise, and he like talked to them and chatted everything through, and then they surprised me with the helmet at Paul Kader's backyard battle a few months ago. So I'm so stoked. I'm just stoked like to be heavily involved with that crew now, and for the opportunity. It's just so sick to work with a brand who's going to create opportunities like the backyard battle and like cool video projects and stuff that I just like, that's the dream for me to make stuff like that happen. So yeah, it's fucking sick.
That's really cool. Yeah. And I guess there's money there to help fund projects and dig in and all that kind of stuff,
it's like,
which is amazing.
To me, that's the most valuable thing, to have a company that supports the ideas and like, just the ideas I have and the stuff I want to do, like the jams and all that kind of stuff. So I'm looking forward to seeing what we can do together. It should be sick.
Nice. And it's a bit like coming into 2024, it's a bit of a challenging year for the mountain bike industry. There's a lot of brands that are in tricky positions for many, many different reasons. And athletes to some extent are suffering from that, right? There's less money available. Do you feel that in the kind of area that you're in, or is it helpful like having Monster kind of out of industry? I guess like energy drink sales, I assume, are still pretty good. Does that help protect you from what's going on, or do you still feel some of that like challenge to fund projects and stuff? Yeah,
I mean, like it's definitely very noticeable that that the industry's struggling right now. Like a lot of companies, on some of my contracts, companies have had to say like, look, we're really sorry, we can't pay you as much anymore and stuff, which is like just a sign of the times. So that's why it is really, really sort of valuable to have companies like Monster that are in the industry, but they don't depend on the mountain bike sales and the industry like that to be able to support their athletes. So yeah, that's really sick. But the brands I work with are super supportive anyway. And I guess it's more of like, you just got to kind of adapt, I think, like in times like this to make projects happen and stuff. You just got to try and almost collab more stuff and see if you can make stuff happen. But every project I do, I put a lot of my own money into it anyway, because it's just something that is like, a lot of it's like partially a passion project, you know? So if something I want to make happen, I don't care. I'm just going to try and make it happen anyway.
That's cool.
Yeah.
It's a good approach.
Yeah. But it's always supported in some way from a sponsor, which is really sick.
Yeah.
And because I'm doing what I love, I just feel like so sort of blessed that I'm even getting any support for it. So, but yeah, it's definitely, you definitely do notice that companies are struggling.
Do you find that always pays back though, when you put your own money in and like make something happen, like good stuff comes off the back of it? It might not be financial, but it's like that next, a sponsor that maybe hadn't seen you before, like sees an edit and comes on board. Or
I think it's like an investment as well. Like if you show like, you've got to put yourself out there and put in the effort to show that you're worthwhile getting hooked up, or like worthwhile getting helped out to do another project. So I just see it as something that, like, if I have a project to get stuck into, that's when I'm the happiest, when I have something like big to work on. So even if it's not fully supported, I'm just like stoked to have something to get my teeth stuck into.
Nice.
But yeah, it's sick. Like, and I'm very blessed that I get support to make stuff like that happen now, which is sick. Yeah.
So what's next then? We've got backyard battles and a big build going for that. Sounds like there's some evolved bits and pieces and collabs with Go On. Is there other stuff on the big list of Vero's projects? There's
there's all the jam events that I'll be going to like this coming season, like the fest stuff, the backyard battles, stuff like that. And Sam and I are going to shoot a video project next year as well, which is like, we're still discussing that with Monster, but we've got some pretty sick ideas for it. And that's like going to be the backyard battle, and this video project is going to be like the main focus for the year, amongst like a load of other things going on. But those two are the things that I'm the most stoked for, and like the big projects that we're getting stuck into. So it should be a sick time. I'm really looking forward to it.
An exciting year ahead. If people want to follow you and keep up to date with like what you're doing, where's the best place for them to be looking?
I guess like Instagram, sometimes TikTok. I often forget about TikTok, but sometimes I'll post on there.
You're the first athlete that said TikTok to me.
Yeah, I like.
Times are changing.
I know. Like at first, I was like, "Ugh, TikTok," whatever. But then I like went on it, and I was like, "Oh my god, TikTok's actually sick." Like it's better than Instagram. I want to say Instagram is like, in my eyes, kind of dying. I don't know. It's like it's
changed a lot.
Yeah, it seems to be. It's not as fun as it used to be. There's a lot of, I don't know, like it's a bit more dead than it used to be, for sure.
Yeah. So TikTok's not just funny dances.
No, like there's so much. I mean, it depends. Your algorithm really depends on what kind of stuff you watch on there, I guess.
Yeah. But
there's some really cool, like super educational stuff on there. Some really, like, actually I didn't go on my phone a lot during my concussion, but afterwards, I went on there. There's some really cool like sort of neuro doctors on there that educating you on stuff. There's all kinds of really sick stuff. There's some really funny stuff too. There's a bit of everything.
Okay.
I don't want to sell it too much, but it's actually quite a sick platform.
Nice. Where do people find you on TikTok? What's your name on there?
Just Veronique Sandler, I think. Yeah.
All right. I'll dig out links.
Same as my Instagram.
How to use TikTok.
Yeah. It can be like, I mean, like if you're bored and you go on there, you could get stuck on there for a while. But
as with all these apps, right?
For sure.
They're designed to take our attention.
Yeah. That's it. But yeah, mainly just Instagram. That's where I sort of update on what I'm up to.
All right.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I'll stick links to those and some of your recent edits in the show notes. People can find that.
Sick.
But yeah, thanks, Vero. It's been nice catching up. 5 years, a lot's gone on, and it's cool to see like where you've come from and where you're at now. And looking forward to seeing what the next year holds, because it sounds like there's some big projects on the line.
Hell yeah. Big up, man. Sick to chat.
Nice. Thanks, Vero.
Till next time.
Yeah.
In a bit.
Cheers.